Welcome to What in the Duck podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Peck. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Dream Machines of Texas, www.dreammachinesoftexas.com. All your used motorcycle wants and needs all in one place at www.dreammachinesoftexas.com. They have multiple locations with large inventory and get new bikes in every week. Knowledgeable staff with great service and financing and extended warranty options available. They also have a complete service garage so every bike is gone through and brought up to speed before you hit the road. I have bought more than a few bikes from Dream Machines over the years and I could not be more satisfied. I've also had friends from all over the country buy bikes from Dream Machines because they couldn't find a better deal anywhere. You can buy a bike and have it shipped to you anywhere in the U.S. Why buy a brand new bike with that brand new high price when you can get a like new bike with that dream deal you've been looking for? Go to www.dreammachinesoftexas.com and get a bike and get your ass on the road. And here we are. Good thing I sat down here. I just looked down at the table and found my Boognish pen sitting on the table. I guess the back fell off of my hat. I gotta make sure not to lose that. Welcome to another episode of What in the Duck. I am your host, Oliver Peck. And as always, I'm happy to be here and I hope you're having a wonderful day. We got a pretty cool little interview today with my buddy Jim Heath, singer, songwriter, guitar player from the band The Reverend Horton Heat, Dallas legend. Gonna kick off this podcast like I do with a couple of questions. And a reminder to all you people out there, if you would like to send me some questions, I can answer them on the podcast. And all you got to do is email me your questions to whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com. As always, I need to make sure that I'm not a total idiot. And that is it. whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com. Email your questions to me. You can ask me anything you want. I may or may not answer it. But if I do, I usually answer it in full and probably too much. TMI is one of my specialties. So here we are. Another beautiful sunny day. January in Dallas, Texas. Who knows when you're actually listening to this, but just so you know, it's a beautiful day in Dallas. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I got a question here from Corinne. I guess I'm supposed to read the whole email, how this works, but says, I want to say your Instagram post cracked me up. I want to know your favorite celebrity tattooing moment has been. Is there anyone you'd admire who you'd like to tattoo at some point? What are some of the worst things a client has done or said during an appointment? And will you finally be creating a show called Do Whatever You Want, Master? I think Do Whatever You Want, Master for a show would be chaotic, for one. I think it would not be as interesting as you think, because if you just had everybody doing whatever they want, it'd be really hard to compare what each artist is doing, and there would be no base premise of standards to judge anyone by, and it would just be a free-for-all, and you might as well just flip a coin at the end of the day to see who wins, or they just all suck and get the fuck out. But if I'm lucky, I won't be doing any of that kind of shit. But anyway, favorite celebrity tattooing moment. You know, I've tattooed obviously some celebrities over the years, and I found that most times most people are just as cool as you are to them, and when people want to come get a tattoo, they're just kind of doing whatever. I will say this, recently I had a pretty cool opportunity. some of y'all have probably heard about this. There's a movie coming out called the Bike Riders movie. And bunch of my motorcycles in the movie. My best friend's the stunt coordinator of the movie. My good buddy Ben Nichols wrote a song about the book, and then his brother Jeff Nichols made a movie about the book, and so it's all kind of intertwined, and I've been kind of in the loop on this movie for many years, and so I was involved in the project at least a little bit and got to hang out and got to be there. My motorcycle's there, and I got to ride around in the background, you know. So if you see the movie, I'm in there. You got to look real close. But one of the main actors is Tom Hardy. Very, very fucking badass fucking actor. Very cool dude. Got to meet him. His the bike that he rides in the movie is one of my bikes. And the first day he came on set, I met him, and he's wanted a tattoo. And so we were off to the races, and we were just buddies from the start, and it was really cool. And he had rented this big house in Cincinnati where he was living while they were filming, because they're going to be there for months. And that night, went to his house, the rent house, and gave him a couple little tattoos. And then over the course of filming, I went back and tattooed him some more. Did some fun tattoos on him, and he was just... It was a pretty extra special moment, other than just like working in Hollywood and having a celebrity come in and get a tattoo and you see him for a second or whatever. You know, my girlfriend got to meet Tom Hardy. Pretty cool. You know, women love Tom Hardy. I mean, dudes love Tom Hardy too, but go see the Bike Riders movie. It's going to be killer. Hey. All right, Ricardo went crazy and knocked over, pulled on some cables, and had to go attack somebody. But like I said, Bike Riders movie is going to be killer. Check it out. Comes out the summer of 2024. And so anyway, that was a cool celebrity tattoo moment. And then the next part of this question, is there somebody I admired I'd like to tattoo at some point? I mean, I get to tattoo a lot of cool people and a lot of people I meet and traveling in bands and stuff. But as far as like, I think if there's somebody I really admire, I just would rather just hang out and talk with them. I mean, for sure, if Steve Buscemi wants to come get a tattoo, I would be stoked. What are some of the worst things a client has done or said during an appointment? Well, I'm sure you know that it is maybe not so common, but it does happen. People pass out when they get tattooed, sometimes every once in a while. And it's always kind of, it's always kind of a pain in the ass, but it's also kind of funny. And it's all not funny, but it's also kind of scary for a minute, and then they come back, and then it's kind of funny, and then whatever. But it is a strain on the tattoo process. But sometimes people pass out and their body just relaxes a little too much, if you know what I mean. They go all the way out and everything else comes all the way out. So that is the worst thing that can happen while tattooing somebody, when they piss and shit their pants. Piss and or shit their pants. It's kind of hard to recover from that one. You're sitting there mid through a tattoo. What do you do? You know? Pretty bad. All right, next question. April says, what is your go-to drink from White Rock Coffee? Worst tattoo duck up, worst tattoo fuck up, and favorite tattoo I've done, favorite Ink Master memory. Is there someone eliminated from Ink Master that you think should have won? And when did you start wearing only red shoes? And what made you decide to do that? Lots of questions. First of all, the Atom Bomb from White Rock. That's the one. The Atom Bomb. Boom. Go get the Atom Bomb at White Rock Coffee. Can't beat it. Worst tattoo fuck up. misspelling words is always bad, but the way to gauge how bad a tattoo fuck up is how easy it is to fix. And I was tattooing a friend of mine late night after party at the tat shop, and she wanted a word on her wrist, and we just drew it on. And when you're drawing on skin with a pen, you're more like drawing shapes of letters more than writing. So I misspelled a very simple word right on the bottom of her wrist with no way to really fix it. And I take half the responsibility. I mean, I was there. She was there. It's on her wrist. I look at it. She looks at it. We both proceeded, and it was spelled wrong. And so, like I said, I take 50% of the responsibility for that. But you know what they say. Sometimes you party. Everyone gets the tattoo they deserve. So that's what you got. Favorite Ink Master memory. I just want to let you guys know there is going to be some Ink Master episodes coming up on the podcast where we'll talk a lot about Ink Master and have, I got some people lined up to come on here. It's going to be really cool, where we'll really delve into the back scenes of Ink Master. But some of my favorite memories are just hanging backstage, me, Chris, and Dave having a time of our life. Most of the best times happened off camera. But one of my favorite things is just playing pranks on the people on the show. I used to sneak upstairs into the loft where everybody lived and turn off the hot water in the middle of the night. So when they got in the morning, had to get ready with a very short, limited amount of time to get ready for the show, they'd all have to take cold showers. And that was pretty fun. Got away with that for many years. This is a serious question. Is there anyone that was eliminated from the show that I think should have won? 100% no way. If you got eliminated, you needed to get the fuck out. You went home, you did what you did, you made it as far as you made it. Maybe there may have been somebody who went home episode 3 that maybe could have lasted to episode 4 or 5, but every single season, the final 3 finale people were the best 3 tattooers. And if somebody went home the day before the finale, they might have ended up in 3rd place instead of 4th place, but they wouldn't have ended up 1st place. So no, I think there was a couple questionable judgment calls on the finale between 1st and 2nd place, but all that can be explained away by what people did to meet the challenge. People hit me. Here's what I'll say. People say to me all the time, the first season that Clean was on the show, they say Clean should have won. And I say, you are 100% right. He should have won. He was the best tattooer of that season. He should have won that season, but his final tattoo did not meet the criteria of the challenge. Therefore, the second best tattooer did exactly what the challenge was and won. And as soon as it was over, Clean came up to me and he's like, dude, I should have won. And I said, yeah, you're right. You should have, could have, would have, but you did not. Sorry, bud. And me and Clean are buddies and we're friends. We've been friends before and we're still friends now. And I still believe he should have won, but he just did. He did what he wanted to do and he did his own thing instead of doing a challenge. And that is what it is. And he's got his side of the story. But the fact of the matter is that's how it played out. And he came back and won later. So there you go. But that was exciting. And it was a very that end, that finale was very exciting and very crazy. And me, Chris, and Dave went back and forth and it seemed tense and it really was. And that was real and it was fun. So Clean's the shit, by the way. So Don't think that I don't think that. All right. Very simple question from Donald. Says, what was the most painful tattoo that you have? That's a pretty simple question. There is a video that exists out there in the ether on the YouTubes of me getting my palm of my hand tattooed. And I am like, basically had to take all my clothes off. I'm laying in my underwear. I'm just beating sweat, flopping all over the table like a fish out of water, screaming bloody murder, yelling out loud and fucking wailing and jumping up and down and acting like, and it hurt. And it hurt really bad. And I barely made it. And the plan was to get both palms of my hands tattooed. And then there was no way I was getting my other palm after that. And it took me years to finally go back and get the other palm of my hand, the other palm. And it hurt. Not as bad, but pretty much as bad. I mean, I was more mentally prepared for it. But I think also the state that you're in when you get tattooed has a lot to do with how you deal with the pain. And I got those tattoos after my bodysuit was done. I hadn't been getting a lot of tattoos. I had been done getting tattooed for years and only had a couple of small tattoos filling in little gaps over the last couple of years before that. So I was like out. I was not what do you say? I was not in condition. I was not in, I wasn't trained. Hadn't been training. So it was bad. And, if you haven't seen that video, it's one of the things that people come up to me and bring up all the time. Like, oh, I saw the video. You're at. And I'm acting like an idiot, but I mean, I'm not acting. It's a real deal. But I do say this, all tattoos hurt. They all hurt. They're always going to hurt. And they're supposed to hurt because it is a needle poking you and jamming ink under your flesh so that you can have a lasting mark. And I'm probably going to spin off on this topic more than once in my life, but now that I've leaned on it, I'm going to say something. If you can't handle tattoos, don't get tattoos. If you don't want it to hurt, there's a very simple solution to it not hurting. And that is, don't get a fucking tattoo. The numbing cream, bullshit, the fucking, all these things that people do to try to fucking make it not hurt is bullshit. The numbing creams affect the skin. They affect the healing of the tattoo. They affect the way the skin works when you're doing a tattoo. Every time somebody comes in with the numbing cream and I tattoo them, it prolongs the process. And as soon as it wears off, it hurts more. In my experience, it's been detrimental to the tattoo process. And as soon as it wears off, it starts hurting. People want to quit and come back the next time and put more numbing cream on and get tattooed for another 45 minutes instead of just sitting there for 3 hours and getting the tattoo and having it done. But worse than that, there's these fucking millionaire crybaby fucking bitches that are fucking doing the most unbelievable things right now. Millionaire sports stars and celebrities are paying $10,000, $20,000 to have their body parts anesthetized and then lay there and get 10, 12, 20-hour tattoo sessions that they don't feel at all, and then get like a whole leg sleeve by 4 tattooers in one 12-hour session. So you're basically getting 48 hours of tattooing, and you're getting your whole leg sleeved out, and you're paying, insane amount of money for this stupid process, all because you're just too much of a fucking pussy to fucking handle a tattoo. You don't deserve a tattoo. You are not a tattooed person. You do not have the respect walking down the street of showing off those tattoos. Nobody can look at you and be like, man, that guy's a badass. Man, look at that. Look at that. That guy suffered for his craft or his art or suffered for his passion. He did nothing except paid a bunch of money to rip off what everything that tattooing is about. And I think it's a disgrace. And I've said this on the internet, and I've made comments, and I've kind of like held off on full on rant about it, but y'all have probably seen some of this and seen some of these people. These people are not cool. These people are not tough. These people are not tattoo people. These people are jumping on the train thinking that I can just buy my way into being cool, and you cannot fucking buy your way into being cool. You just be who you are and you're fucking cool. But you fucking try to jump in and have an entire bodysuit in a fucking one swoop. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about at all. If you can't handle a tattoo, you don't deserve the fucking tattoo. I feel like I spun down a little bit of a negative trail there. I'm a pretty positive guy. I like to keep the PMA up. So I am going to explain one quick little thing. I'm not being negative. I'm not trying to be negative about the things that are wrong. I just want to harshly impress how positive it is to get real tattoos and really embrace the process and care about the tattoos you get and spend the time and the dedication and the process of what it takes to get tattooed and be a tattooed person. There's no cheat code in life. There's no fast forward to the finish line. These people are missing out on the journey of life. But anyway, like I said, we've got a cool interview with my buddy Jim Heath, lead singer, songwriter, guitar player, ripping guitar player, badass fucking guitar player, amazing band, the Reverend Horton Heat. I've seen them hundreds of times in my life. I did grow up in Dallas. They're from Dallas. They played weekly in the late 80s and early 90s and early 2000s, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger and toured the world. And I've seen them in New York. I've seen them in California. I've seen them all over. They've toured with some of the other greatest big rock and roll bands of the era. We just get to chat with Jim and see what he's got going on lately. So stay tuned and send me those questions. Email me anything you want at whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com. What in the Duck Podcast is proud to be sponsored by Anchor Screen Printing. Anchor Screen Printing has been printing t-shirts and merch products since 1999. Anchor is the place for quality, small-run items. At Anchor, every print is hand-done by people who care about art. No mass-produced, machine-operated printing done here. You can email Anchor at anchorcustoms@gmail.com to talk about getting something printed for your company, brand, or shop. Anchor Screen Printing also has its own online merch store that sells Elm Street Tattoo, Cheap Thrills, Heart in Hand, Party First Safety Maybe merch, and much more. You can check it all out now at anchorscreenprinting.com. All orders at anchorscreenprinting.com over $35 have quick and free shipping in the continental U.S. So go to anchorscreenprinting.com today and buy some cool shit. Or you can click the link provided in this podcast to shop now. And we're live. All right. Welcome to What in the Duck with my good buddy Jim Heath from the band The Reverend Horton Heat. So happy to have you here today, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. And welcome to Miotia's VIP booth.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is the Miotia's Mexican Restaurant VIP booth. They're so gracious to let us record our podcast here. And so thank you for coming. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well, working hard, doing a bunch of living the dream.
I mean, you're looking great.
Well, thanks. I like you. Good. I appreciate that.
You're looking good. You're looking good, feeling good, as elderly, they say.
Okay, whatever. I feel good. I don't want to get into all this, but I had some digestive issues, and without getting into almost bleeding to death, I switched my diet because I had to, so And then also just anyway, so I've lost some weight, and everybody's saying, "Wow, you look good. You look good." I'm going, "All right, man. I like this." But
I was sick.
But look, I guess I'm as vain as any person is. I like, not being a fat guy.
Yeah.
But it's really for my health.
Well, that's good.
You get to be my age, you start thinking about a bunch of stuff that really sucks.
I mean,
when
you're young, you can just eat anything, and it seems it doesn't matter. Yeah. And then you get old, and you're like, man, I'm eating garbage, and it's showing. So, I'm just going to kick it right off, and we're going to get started. And my first thing is like, what is new in 2024? What's happening? What's going on? What do you got plans for this year coming up? I'm excited for this year, just because we've had a rough couple of years, and it's, things are starting to pick back up, and last year was pretty good, but I feel like 2024, people are finally just ready to
they're ready to go balls out before they hammer us down again with Disease X. So I'm looking forward to Disease X, because I'm going to tell everybody, screw you. I don't care. I'm going to still do what I do. But
I think I'm hoping, I will jump on this topic real fast. I'm hoping that people learn from the last time not to fall for the same old tricks. Like when they come at you with this fear, like just let's get on with our lives.
Yeah. Well, maybe later in the interview, you know what? I'll answer your first question, but I don't want to go into all that the way I feel about. Because really I want to talk about myself. But
yeah, but what's new? Well, the Rev in 2024. Let's hear it.
Let's get this stuff out of the way. Well, I'm doing a tour that now has become a recording and a CD release, and probably a radio release. But I'm doing a tour with me, Dale Watson, and a guy named Jason D. Williams. And all three of these guys, not all three, that would include me, but both of these guys, Dale and Jason D., are really fabulous musicians at what they do. I mean, they're some of the best in the world.
I love Dale.
Yeah, oh, you do? Okay, you are familiar with Dale. Well, Dale Watson is really one of the few of the only real country singer-songwriters still around. All these other country people, I'm sorry, but they're not really country. And then a lot of their, and then the ones that are actually guys that or girls that might be from the country or a small town, their music doesn't harken back to the roots of country like Dale. Dale is like one of the guys, so anyway, him, and then this guy, Jason D. Williams, who a lot of people have not heard of, but he's a unbelievably talented piano player, singer that is very older guy, but he's influenced a lot by Jerry Lee Lewis, and he has a remarkable story. He was adopted as a young baby, and by these sweet Christian parents, and he grew up, and then at some point in his childhood, he felt compelled to start playing and singing like Jerry Lee Lewis. So this wild boogie woogie piano, and you like the song Crazy Arms.
I love it.
Right. So anyway, that's a Ray Price or whatever, but Jerry Lee did it. But anyway,
Jerry Lee did the version that I like.
Here's the crazy part that I'm actually trying to get a movie made about this, but as his career went, he eventually found out and figured out that he was adopted, right? His actual real maternal father was Jerry Lee.
No way.
So when you start putting together what's in our genes, and I've heard that science talks about how that our DNA has memory going back at least 14 generations. And that's why we have an intuition, a gut instinct, or a gut feeling or an instinct. So if you think about that, then it probably is that, he's got it in his genetics to be a wild boogie woogie rock and roller and like that. So, but yeah, no, it's a remarkable story, and he's become a dear friend. But Jason D. Williams is awesome. Off the hook. He's crazy. But anyway, so me and Dale and him are doing a tour of the West Coast that's coming up starting in March. And so we did a recording, and now my label Fun Guy Records is going to put out a little, it's a little 2-song CD, but we're going to go to radio with it and do some promotions with it and what have you. So that's kind of that's my today focus. When I leave here, I've got to go finish work, keep working on this.
Oh, this sounds
this tour
great.
that's coming up. Yeah, it's going to be really cool. And so I'm doing that. And then my label Fun Guy Records, last week I was down working with a guy named Lance Lipinski, who's another kind of Jerry Lee Lewis type of guy.
Yeah.
And then I'm working with Jimmy Dale Richardson on some new recordings that are pretty awesome. And so that's what's going on now. You know, I'm going to be doing a lot of touring throughout up until October of 2024. So out we're going to be out with a band called the Surfragettes, who are great.
Yeah.
Great all-girl surf guitar band from Canada. But so I guess that's it. There's probably other stuff because I've got kind of a lot going on, but that's
that's a good kickoff for the year, man. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. And to go back to talk about this guy growing up and becoming, just following his instincts to be what he is. It turns out that that's in his past.
It's in his genetic makeup.
The last however many thousands of years of human evolution, we have lost our instincts. We're animals just like every other animal, but every other animal is born with an instinct to know, like some animals at their shortly after birth are hunting, and they know what to eat and they know where to go and they know how to do it, and they learn very quickly. And we are losing our instincts, and we are being controlled by so much in the ether, that we're following instead of doing our own thing. But there's still, at our core, there's still our instinctive things that we either like or don't like, and now our instincts have been reduced to, I like chocolate or vanilla. You know what I mean? Instead of, do I want to be this amazing thing or be this amazing thing or follow the, so it's very cool to hear this story of this guy that finds out why he's just driven to do what he does. And we have that instinct. Some people know their parents and they follow their parents' footsteps, or they have the same talents that their parents have. And you think, oh, well, they just got into art because their dad was in art and they saw their dad doing art, so they wanted to do art. But in this case, he didn't.
Right. Well,
and he still did it. It's an amazing.
That's right, because his parents, I'm 100% sure they weren't like forcing Jerry Lee Lewis down his throat, because they were Christian missionaries, and JerryLee was
a wild man.
But he was a wild man. Like he was religious too. Part of his life, he was going to be a preacher, but Jerry Lee's cousin, one of his cousins, is Jimmy Swaggart, and Jimmy Swaggart is a famous evangelist that has given hundreds of sermons about how Jerry Lee needs to turn away, from his evil ways and what. So, so I'm sure that, and I've talked to Jason about a lot of this before, but no, what you're saying about the instincts thing, I think part of it, especially for men, is and boys, goes back to the Industrial Revolution, because before that, we were agrarian society where you grew up learning how to farm wheat, or learning how to or raise pigs. And so you learned that from your dad. And then no matter what you decided to do, you always knew you could go back to raising pigs.
Yeah.
And so that, but then with and I know that I had this feeling when I was a kid, like my dad would get up in the morning and dress up in a suit and tie and just go somewhere. And like, what does your dad do? He dresses up in a suit and tie. And so I would ask him after, so Dad, what do you do? Oh, I've got a phone stuck in my ear all day. Oh, okay. So you dress up in a suit and you talk on the phone. Okay. See what I'm saying? But I had this yearning, and what I think we're talking about is instinct to want to know. And so I think that might be one reason why especially men are losing their instincts, is because we've been basically programmed by a larger, I don't want to blame society, but I do think that there is a larger overriding thing that's basically trying to control humanity right now, or not right now. They've been trying to for 100 years, but
it's working.
It's working, and so and so instinct, yeah, man, it's really important. A lot of it too is I hate to say it, but it is almost like education, because you need to listen and learn from people that know what they're talking about. But that leads us to like get on the internet, and I'm bad on YouTube. I love to watch YouTube, but I love, and so how do you fix this? How do you fix this tractor? And you go on YouTube. Wow, that's how you. And so in that way,
you can learn anything.
Right. In that way, it's great, phenomenal. But the downside is that everything else, you instead of trusting your instinct and just going and doing something, you have to like, oh well, you better not do that, because a lot of people have failed when they tried to do their own tattoo shop.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people have failed when they go out trying to be a rockabilly guitar player.
Just get in a van and start driving around the country.
Right. And that's what I did, you know? And so, yeah. But I'm glad you said, I'm very interested in the direction that this conversation is going now, because what you were saying about instinct, man, it's really important. It's really important that we have that and keep it.
A lot of things that I remember being told as a child is like, follow your passion, or something. And I don't feel like a lot of young people today are taught to follow their passion, but even if they are, their passions are not really an instinctual passion. It's something that they're just being fed, and why so many people are going to school for things like marketing degrees. Like, is that really a passion choice?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there are people that like go to like, they go to veterinary school because they really love animals. And that's something that I can follow that path of a passion driven career that takes you to school. Cause a lot of passion driven people don't end up going to college. A lot of college people go to college because they're trying to figure out what they want to do, or they want to do something they think is going to make money.
Right.
But the people that are following their passion, there are people that want to be a lawyer or a doctor or a veterinarian or this and that. But then there's so many, that's a small fraction of what people that are going through the maze right now. And, the deterrence to just buy your peers or your family to just get in a van and drive around the country and try to play music is less people are doing it.
Right.
Less people are doing it. And they think the way you're going to do it is you're just going to be Justin Bieber and get famous on YouTube and be a millionaire by the time you're 12 years old.
Right.
That's their passion. Their passion is just to get on TikTok.
Right.
Not to actually do something. And so it's the new generation of how to achieve your dream is it's all about a cheat code or a shortcut or something instead of the hard work method.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They want a cheat code, and yeah, that's you, man. You said a mouthful there, buddy. You've really thought about this.
I mean, I think about a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. You're thinking.
Well, one of the main. I don't really have a theme for this podcast. I just bring the guest on, and I want to find out what they have, and I get interesting people. But the reoccurring thing that I'm kind of driving at, and I don't really like to tell people before they get here, but it's about life transformation and the changes people go through. And anybody that I know personally that has achieved something monumental has had to go through some obviously major struggles, obviously a lot of hard work, obviously which ensues a lot of life transformation, growing up and sticking to something. Yeah. And it's really interesting to me to see that that side of what drives people and how they maintain a goal or a focus or the ethic, the work ethic, amidst growing and changing and becoming something.
Right.
Because you have become something monumental in the music scene. Well, you know, and I'm being flattering, and I'm being, you know, but I mean, I am a fan, and I've been a fan since I was a young child, and I like vintage stuff, I like old stuff, I like old music. Jerry Lee Lewis being one of my favorites of all time. Like,
me too.
When rockabilly kind of resurged in my childhood in the 90s, you know, it was like I was drawn to it. So I mean, there's a lot of bands that popped up and jumped on that train, but Reverend Horton Heat is a mainstay, and it's a great accomplishment, you know. And I think that it's really cool to get I want to hear some of your insight on that.
Oh, well, thank you. No, I am flattered and I appreciate it, but yeah, no, you know, I know you're an artist. And so what at some point in my life, when I was a kid, I started out as I learning blues licks. And then my first little band that we had was a 50s band. And then so rockabilly was kind of always around, but it was kind of like it was kind of something kind of obscure out of the past and everything. And so but I liked roots music, but then I was in rock bands and I was in bands that were like kind of like show bands, and then R&B soul type thing. And then anyway, long story short, the late 70s, these bands started getting big, like the Blasters,
yeah.
Robert Gordon, the Stray Cats. And I was thinking, okay, that's it. This is super. That's super cool way to. That's guitar playing, because it melded what I liked, blues, with the old rock and roll, which I had already been doing and everything. So I was like, okay, you know. And so I started writing. I was in a band called Teddy and the Tall Tops, and what Ted called the Great Rockabilly Scare of 1983. So anyway, but at some point in all of this, I was living in Deep Ellum. I'd been through a divorce. Without getting in all that, I was living in Deep Ellum in a kind of a bad existence. But it was pretty bad. But there were these art galleries popping up.
But those are the good times.
Right. I mean, it's like I wouldn't want to go back and relive that, but man, it was important. And that's why the hard work thing is important, because man, the struggle and the stuff that's really terrible, you know, you don't want to relive it, but then after you get through that, you go, you know what, that was part of what made this whole thing great, was that. But anyway, long story short, I was seeing these art galleries pop up, and I would go see these artists, painters, and stuff. And I noticed that they all were trying to get this identifiable look. And so they would, you know, you'd see like there was a gallery that had all this guy that did all this stuff that he would paint, and then he would like paste on these like looked like roadways. Okay, roadways on over a painting on everything he did.
Yeah.
And then right over here was a guy who was doing actual like portraits of people that were beautiful. I mean, it was modern looking in a way, but it was also like kind of like looking at a Rembrandt, you know, like capturing these people's faces and these portraits that was like a photograph could never capture that expression. And I was thinking, man, that's cool, you know. And then I was like looking at all this, and I was thinking about, I need to find my style, my look, my thing. And so I was thinking, okay, rockabilly, you know, I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and so then
gotta have a niche.
Right. And so then what I did basically was just decide to use rockabilly as a platform. So where I could get at another story about Stevie Ray Vaughan. So Stevie Ray Vaughan used to just be straight blues guy. Then he got more turned up and more aggressive. And so I thought, you know what? I'll just do that with rockabilly. So I started being more open-minded about writing songs that were instead of trying to be like perfect little 50s rockabilly song, which I still love those types of songs, but try to like get a little more turned up and aggressive. And the next thing you know, we're playing country bar one night, heavy metal place the next night. Yeah. Punk rock room the next night, blues room the next night. And so we were...
I mean, punk rock people love rockabilly music.
Yeah.
You know, it's a crossover. And so like, and even, I mean, it's heavy guitar driven music. So that kind of people, the heavy metal people, the rock and roll people, it kind of, the blues people, it kind of...
Right.
A lot of people that love, a vast variety of musical genres usually kind of aim at a section of the sphere, like whether it's, and me, I love guitar driven music. So I love the country, rock and roll, rockabilly.
I see. Yeah.
That's the spectrum that I love. So, I mean, it's like, I see all that wide spectrum of stuff from all the way to just heavy punk rock to Hank Williams, and that's a wide range, and you're somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah. So that's what that's what I did. But another thing that's different about me that I guess I need is we're talking about like doing something and going out there, and there's the fear is kind of like could be a good thing and a bad thing, like because you need to put away your fear of going and doing stuff, But then at the same time, I used fear to keep Reverend Horton Heat going. Like one thing, like people say, well, how do you keep doing it? Well, I'm afraid.
What else are we gonna do?
Right, I'm afraid that if I stop doing it, it'll all go away. And so like me and Jimbo getting in the van and driving across the country to go play a show for $200. You got to give up fear a little bit, but a part of it was fear driven because we were so desperate. We were afraid and desperate that we couldn't make this work unless we drove there and lost money and nothing happened, So, and a lot of people, and I say that because a lot of people on the other side of the let's not, it's good to squelch your fears about something, but the other side is these people that are, so I want to say boastful, like I'm not afraid of anything, It's like, well, maybe that's kind of stupid because, there's, like if you're the best street fighter in Dallas, Texas, you're going to get your ass kicked sometime. At some point, no matter, because there's always somebody better out there, and so you can't be so boastful and so like, oh, I'm gonna, but you're
gonna get caught slipping.
But having a good dose of self-confidence that's driven by your instinct and driven by your gut feeling and your heart and soul, that's it. Just look on the positive side. Like what I try to do is instead of thinking about money and I love to make money, but but I like to think about what's heartfelt. If they say, hey, they want you to play this gig, for so and so, I have to turn down a lot of gigs that are heartfelt. So when I do, it's got to be heartfelt. If I'm going to do a record by Jimmy Dale Richardson, it's got to be heartfelt, and so. That's what I'm doing now, man. I'm working with this Jimmy Dale Richardson recording and working with Lance Lipinski and these are projects that I either make very little money on or lose a lot of money on.
Yeah, it's that tipping point. It's like you make a little or you'll lose. I mean, every once in a while it hits.
But you're doing something. Yeah. And hey, if one of those things does hit, that'll be gravy. And I tell you what, that's why I'll be happy to tell you, I love making money.
Yeah, but you're busy. So you're always working.
Yeah.
So you're always doing something. So
forward.
It's not like you're just chilling at home, waiting, hoping to make some money. Like, It's like I got a lot of irons in the fire where I'm trying to maybe I make money on this or maybe I break even on this, but every day I'm working every day.
Yeah.
So, and whatever I do extracurricular either makes or loses money, I'm working every day. So I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to put it all out there because I'm just going to go work some more. Because if I was trying to not work, then it would be scarier.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
You
no,
know?
you know what? That's a great point, because you just got to keep moving forward. And if something loses money, you can look back on it and say, wow, I shouldn't have done that. Or you can say, you know what? I had a good time doing that, and I got to help these people have a job, or I got to help these people do a recording or have a release or have a gig, and so it's moving forward, Yeah.
Well, to touch base on what how you started out that conversation about how you decided to pick a niche or pick rockabilly and stick with it. I think that, there's a lot of bands, kind of older fashioned bands, would have that, like a ZZ Top. ZZ Top is ZZ fucking Top. And every album, you're gonna fucking love it if you love ZZ Top.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were they were great musicians. They're true to themselves. They made great fucking songs, and they made silly songs, and they made serious songs, and they made joke songs, and they made rockin' songs, but it was like ZZ Top for their whole career. And they had a stick, and they stuck to it, and it's awesome.
Yep.
And they could play 365 nights a year, and people will be there every night.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what you've done with Reverend Horton Heat.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of bands, I was thinking about this earlier, there's a lot of bands that like try to reinvent themselves. And every album, if you love the last album, you may or may not like the new album. So they're trying to maybe trying to hold on to their old fans, or maybe trying to grab new fans, or they're trying to and so, and they just kind of.
Yeah, that's a tough issue because you do want to try to break new ground with artistically and do what you do, but you can't keep repeating yourself too. But then again, too, you can't. I think it might be you just need to not make too big. It's too big of a jump, or maybe a jump that's obviously driven by something, some kind of like. It's like when the Rolling Stones decided to do a disco song.
Yeah.
Those are my least favorite Rolling Stones songs.
Yeah, but I mean, the Beatles did it. The Beatles changed drastically from album to album. But the Beatles were four all completely creative, amazing individuals that were passion-driven every second of their life. They weren't trying to follow a trend. They weren't trying to jump to the next stone. They didn't care if you liked it or not. They just made it.
Right.
And that it worked for them.
Right.
The chances that it's going to work for somebody else, and that's a different kind of band. And they also didn't stay together.
Yeah. They basically kind of broke up in 1965
for sure.
Because they quit playing shows.
And then they barely made an album, a few more albums, and then they never played again. And
those albums were pretty much all driven by whatever Paul McCartney wanted.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of sad that the Beatles just never played. They should have been touring, and they should have been touring all through the 70s and the 80s.
They were just too big, though.
Yeah.
It was too much hassle.
Like too big. That's crazy. Only other band I can think of is maybe Metallica is they're still going big. But yeah, you gotta do what's heartfelt. And if it doesn't work out, just move on, and
But I think that the way, you seem to me to be very methodical, and you put a lot of thought into your music and your show and as a business, you've made a really good business out of your merch and your branding and and all this stuff. And there's a few other bands out there that have done similar, like Social Distortion, that have a brand and have a style and have a merch and have a kind of an empire in their fan base. How did you get on that track because obviously nowadays you don't make money in the record industry other than playing shows and selling merch. You know, in the early days, you made a bunch of money on radio play. Up bands like, you know, would make most of their money from record labels and concerts and whatever. But now it's like, how did you make that decision so early to be on top of that merch game and that branding and that stuff?
Well, you know, I don't know. I mean, when I look back on it, you know, I remember, I mean, part of it was that I just was hanging around people that would have some pretty good ideas, like Doppelganger, Jeff Newton.
Mm-hmm.
He had a partner, Jeff Weddle, and they started Zorlak skateboards. And so Zorlak was doing some really cool graphics, you know. So the two Jeffs were putting out these skateboards that had this great graphics, and well, and t-shirts too.
Yeah.
And so I started having him do our t-shirts, and then they split up. And so Jeff Weddle out in San Diego was doing t-shirts, some of our t-shirts too, and Zorlak kind of split apart. But Jeff Weddle was the guy that said, "Hey, well, let's take the Norton motorcycle logo and kind of switch it around so it says Horton, and I'll put Reverend Horton Heat on there." And so that little design has been really good for us. I've been waiting for a cease and desist letter from Norton Motorcycles for the last 35 years, and so I shouldn't talk about this in the podcast. Or see, now I'll get a cease and desist.
I don't think they're in business anymore.
But well, so, you know, somebody owns that. Whatever. I don't want to, man, see what I'm doing? You're making me talk about stuff I shouldn't talk about, Oliver. Dang it. But anyway, no, so, but that kind of stuff, that was a great idea. And that led to Jeff Newton in Dallas. He had a great artist, David. Mosquito. Yeah. And Mosquito started doing some stuff for us. And then some other artists that we met here and there, you know, just getting to know really great graphic artists, you know, and just being aware of new t-shirt designs. And so to this day, basically, one of my jobs, I believe, is to not come up with new t-shirt designs because I have too many. I mean,
but
I've got so many back things I could redo and everything. But we still do a lot of those original designs from Mosquito and everything. But I've got some great artists that I work with. I'm working with they're twin girls from the Ukraine called the Mad Twins. And man,
didn't they do something for Social D too, didn't they?
Yeah.
I met them at a Social D show in New York.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
They're really great.
They're wild.
They're wild, and their art is just awesome. But the way they work is really unusual because here we go. We're talking about instincts again. You know, they have the same genetics and the same instincts, you know, and so they work together like no other artists do because they'll be sitting there working diligently for like 8 straight hours. They're from the Ukraine. They do stuff like that, you know, and one of them will say, you know, I think that she should have sunglasses. Do you want to draw the sunglasses? Okay, let's switch. And so they'll both be basically working on one piece of art together. That's really hard to do unless you're twins like that, you know. So, but so the Mad Twins do stuff for us, and then, you know, we've had some other, some other people do some pretty cool stuff for us, and so we. You know, that I guess being on top of the merch, we learned really a long time ago that even if you get a great record deal, the record business it's a weird business, and if you rely on that, you're not going to last long. You have to be playing live, you have to be selling your merch, and
building fan base, keeping fan base.
That's right.
I remember many years ago. It's a faint memory, but I remember someone in a band that I knew asking you some questions about the business. And I just remember you saying something to effect of like, whatever you do, don't sell your merch. Don't sell the rights to your merch to anyone else.
Oh, yeah.
You were like, keep your merch. Like if you sign a record deal with somebody, you keep your merch. You get your merch printed, you sell it, you make the money. Because there's a lot of bands in the 90s and early 2000s were making these deals either through their record label, through a third party, where they would sign away the rights to the merch, and then this merch company would sell their merch online for them and just cut them a check every month. But you're getting a smaller percentage, and then whenever you wanted to go on tour, they would send you merch to sell on tour with their cut already taken out of it. You know what I mean? So instead of buying a shirt for $4, $5, $6, you're paying $12 for the shirt and then selling it, so the other company is like, you got 100 bands that they own all the rights to their merch, and they're making all this money, and the bands are making less money. And the merch is where you make most. When you're on the road, that's where you make your money every day, to hotels and gas and paying the crew and all that stuff. So it's like, I remember you saying that, and
it's just really true. But what's happening now in the record industry is they call it 360 deals. And so they're not only going to make your records, they're going to do all your merch and then take a cut of your live performance. They get they're going to do a publishing deal.
But they dangle that big check out
right
at the beginning.
First big check, right. So, I'm really lucky that when we first started doing our record deals with Sub Pop and then Interscope and the major labels, we've been on several different labels. It could be considered they're independents that are so big they were like majors. So we've been on major labels, but back then they didn't take mechanicals, which is publishing.
But they treated you better.
Well, I don't know about that, but they didn't take mechanical royalties. All they wanted was was to do the records and then pay us our percentage of what we got for those records without merch or mechanical royalties. And so now that's kind of unheard of. To usually it includes a publishing deal.
Well, now they wouldn't make any money because
that's right. They have to do that. So yeah, that whole thing with the YouTube and it's a double-edged sword, but it's. At the end of the day, I do think it's great for the artist. They've got these big artists coming out that are making money just because they had one song on YouTube that blew up, and then the next thing you know, they're one of the biggest things in music, and they don't even have a record label. Yeah. So in some ways, some ways I'm sad about that, but in other ways, knowing somehow. Some of these people in the record industry, their egos got so big, it's like they kind of got what they deserved, Yeah. Anyway.
Well, let me pop into this topic that we were talking about earlier that I'm really excited about, is that you mentioned a minute ago, Fun Guy Records, but we were talking about just, how vinyl, I don't know if to say it's making a comeback, but there are people that buy vinyl records, and I'm one of them. And I said, when I go to a show, if the band has vinyl, I buy the vinyl, and I love to have that, and I love to have the art, and I collect things. So I want to, an album art and just a handheld thing, and being able to play a record is still something really cool, and you're doing some really cool projects, putting out some stuff on your own record label, which is you said kind of maybe a passion or vanity project. It's not a big business, but you're doing some cool limited edition stuff putting out 45s, and you just put out, tell me the story. You put out a 10-inch.
Yeah. Well, I was, it was a vanity label. It's called Fun Guy Records. And I just came up with that silly name.
Well, you're a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy. Yeah. That's right. Well, so it's apropos. But anyway, no, I'd been putting out these little singles by people that I liked, and not trying to make money, just to do these little things. And then Jimmy Dale Richardson, who's a great rockabilly singer, he came to see us play, and he played this recording of him and a great guitar player named Nick Curran. Have you ever heard of Nick Curran?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was him and Nick Curran, and then Smilin' Jake, who plays with a great band called a Hot Club from Cowtown. But it's from the 90s. They recorded it in Nick Curran's bedroom with a cassette deck and an echo box, but it sounds like this crazy 1956 recording of Johnny Burnett. And of course, it's Nick Curran. It's great guitar playing, great bass, and then Jimmy Dale singing is off the hook. So I call it lo-fi high energy. But anyway, it's this cool recording. And he said, I want you to put this out. And I said, well, I'm not a record label. And he said, oh, okay, whatever. I said, well, send it to me. And so I was on tour with Big Sandy, and I said, I played it for Big Sandy. And I said, yeah, Jimmy wants me to put this out, and I'm not even a record label. And Big Sandy heard it, and he said, Jim, you have to put that out.
You got to put it out.
So in that case, and we could talk about this a little bit. A lot of what I do is stuff that I just fall into. Like you said, I'm methodical. Kind of one of my methods is just like going with the flow, you know? So I said, oh.
But you're in a lot of flow.
Right.
I mean, you're in touch with a lot of people. You play with people from, you play with a lot of people.
And
you're
Big
out
Sandy's
there.
great, so I trust him.
But you're out there, you're in the mix. So there's a lot of things flowing by you. So you have a exposure to a vast amount of talent.
Right. So what happened is I put out this record on a 10-inch vinyl to basically make it another collectible product deal. But then I met this radio guy who really loved rockabilly, and I played it for him, and he thought it was great, but it's really lo-fi. I mean, there's like I thinking,
love it.
I mean, it's called Jimmy Dale Dallas Barbershop Sessions, because Nick lived behind a barbershop.
Yeah.
So I put it out, and I got this radio guy who loved it so much that he thought he charged me very little. The next thing I know, that thing went to number 9 on the alt country charts. And I mean, when you think about a recording made on a cassette player in
the
a
90s
bedroom, and when you look right from the 90s, when you look below who that record was beating out, all of these big bands. I mean, very established bands that were big, and I was thinking
with big reporting budgets.
And so I was like going, what is happening here? Well, anyway, we worked it, and it stayed up there for quite a while. The number 9 was as high as it got, and then it kind of went away.
But that's top 10, baby.
Well, here's what happened is that my radio guy emailed me a month later, and he said, this is crazy. He said, I quit working this record. He said, it's back on the charts at number 5. And I was going, whoa, okay, great, and so it really helped Jimmy Dale, especially with the rockabilly community that are already there wanting stuff like him. And so I figured, well, I guess my vanity label is a little less vain.
Yeah.
It's actually going to be. So, I did another Jimmy Dale record and went to radio with that. And then now I've done a Justin Pickard record.
Oh, he's great.
He's great. And then I did the
he just played this weekend, right?
Yeah, he did a live recording at the Double Wide that I couldn't go to, but anyway, so I put out the new Reverend Horton Heat record on my own label, and it's done really well. And the reason it's done well for us is that we're selling vinyl.
I love it.
But that went on the charts too. That went up to number 1 on the alt rock chart. It was
I'm gonna beg you
times.
For a signed copy of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll get you one. But so anyway, I'm kind of in the record business, which is like, it's kind of like something that I don't make money on. But then again, we're doing pretty well with the new because it's Reverend Horton Heat. But it's interesting. It's collectible. The music business now is basically devolved into collectible products.
Yeah.
There
is a lot of collectors that love vintage things, but then the new retro music, vintage music crowd is still into collecting.
Right.
And
a lot of our fans will buy our record because, listen, records are cool. And I love 45s. I think 45s are cool, but I like the artwork on. Anyway, long story short, this. There is nothing cooler than great artwork on a 12-inch album. And you look at it, wow, that's cool. So a lot of people buy our record just because they don't even, I don't even have a turntable, you know, I'm going to get one. I go, yeah, they're not that expensive. Go get a turntable.
Yeah. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Legacy Ink, the finest in tattoo pigments. I have been using this ink exclusively for over 20 years myself. It has been recently rebranded and marketed, but it has been the same recipe for decades. Real, hand-mixed tattoo pigments that heal great and last. People always comment on the yellow that I use and the yellow tattooed on me. My favorite, the Mayan yellow. I have seen countless 20-plus-year-old tattoos with the colors still vivid. Don't fuck around with all these newfangled companies with their watered-down baloney. Get the tried, true, and tested good shit. You can find them on Instagram at Legacy Pigments or email Ashley today to place an order at legacyartsupplies@gmail.com. Tell them Oliver sent you and receive a special discount. Don't just do tattoos. Be a part of a legacy. I mean, all my favorite albums of my life, I own on vinyl, you know, and whether it's the original pressing or a record day re-release or, you know, one of those things, I just, it's like, cool. This is my favorite album. I should own it on vinyl. You know what I mean? You kind of, if I find it in the record store or I see it at a show or whatever, and it's just like, and, you know, I don't listen to vinyl very often, but I just love to have it. And I know that years down the road, I'll be able to hear that. And I talked earlier about just being a whore to Spotify, and I have Spotify, and most of the music I listen to on a daily basis in my car at the tattoo shop is Spotify, you know, and you just pick what you want to play and you play it. And I've talked to a lot of musicians about it, and it's kind of it's a double-edged sword because it's good to have your music out there. You want people listening to your music. You want people to be fans. You want people to hear it. So it goes on Spotify, but then you don't really get a whole lot of money out of it being played on Spotify.
Right.
So, and I think the only solution to getting the artist to be able to be paid more on Spotify is you'd have to charge everybody more to have Spotify. You know what I mean? Like, I'm paying $9.99 a month, and I can listen to as much as I want, you know? And I listen to music. That $9.99 doesn't split up between the thousands of bands I listen to. Everybody's getting pennies, you know what I mean? So I think it's a good thing because the music's out there. And as soon as your album's out, everybody can listen to it and hear your new album. And people aren't buying CDs anymore anyway. You want to get them to the show.
Well, I will say this. Last year, the CD sales have picked up. So, and I think the reason for that is art. Yeah. Because even though it's not a cool big artwork, it's still artwork that goes with it, and it's something that you can hold.
And you know you have it.
Right.
And you know you have it. Yep. So I think the Spotify thing is good. For a music lover, it's great. And I think for a band, especially a new band, to be able to put their new album out there and get a bunch of exposure, I think it's good. And I don't really think there's a solution for them to be able to pay all these artists a bunch more money out of it. So it's just kind of people that complain about not getting paid from it, I feel like, what are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
here we are.
You're going to make it $100 a month to have Spotify, then nobody will have Spotify, nobody will listen to your music.
Right.
So what do you do?
That's the story of my career. I've been around doing that. I mean, for so long that I've seen the progression from, you know, the vinyl to CDs, then CDs to digital and all this. I was in a meeting with a big record executive guy one time out in LA, and then it was, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but we were talking about a record deal, Reverend Horton Heat, whatever. But he held up this thing that it looked like a big bar of soap, and it was white. He goes, "Do you know what this is?"
An 8-track tape?
And I said, "No, what is that?" He goes, "It's called an iPod."
Oh, haha, yeah.
And we said, "Well, an iPod? What is that?" He goes, "It's incredible." He goes, "I can hold like 200 songs on this thing."
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, 200 songs. Like now it's like you got 2 million,
Yeah.
whatever access, so, but, so, I mean, I've seen it, but I did talk to one record executive at one point during all this. And he goes, I told every other guy in this town, if we go to digital, then he says, it's like, he goes, the cat is out of the bag. The genie is out of the bottle. You'll never get it back. Once we go to digital, he said, this is going to be the end of all this. And look what's happening, And so some of them, most of them weren't smart enough to see that coming.
Yeah.
So, a couple like him, he was smart enough to see it coming. But yeah, it's sad in some respects, but like I said in the others, like you were saying, Spotify, man. A band can put out their own stuff, get it on Spotify,
get listeners,
get people to their shows,
If you're not willing to go out, pound the pavement, and play shows, then you're not going to make it.
Yeah, well, that's right, and that. So for starting a long time ago, even before all this other stuff was happening, I kind of made the decision that what, my art form. I understand the recording artist art form.
Yeah.
I'm a recording artist, great. But I started thinking about it. Wow, the greatest musicians in history, arguably, never made a recording. As far as I know, there's not a recording of Mozart out there.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so really the technology of recording is still kind of new to humanity when you consider the whole history of music going back hundreds of years. So what was their art form? Their art form was playing music live.
Yeah.
And so that's what my art form really is focused on, is playing music to an audience, like it's been done for hundreds of years. And then, so the recording artist aspect, which is cool, and I like that too, but that to me, it's not as a legitimate art form as playing music live to an art. Music is to use a modern word, streaming. It goes into the room and then goes away. It's not like you make a painting and then once you're done with that painting, it's on the wall forever.
Yeah.
Right. So people can, but then that's the way music should be. It should be something that's like live and feeds off the crowd and all that stuff. And, and then the appreciation, like the travel of it, and people see the band up there on stage. And part of it is that, wow, they came all the way from Finland, or whatever,
or they went all the way to Finland.
So
from Texas.
The travel is kind of part of it, of the whole deal. We had to drive all the way to Austin to see this band from Finland. But anyway, I'm getting off my point. My point is that's my art form, is playing music.
Well, I love live music. I'm a music fan. I love live music. I go to shows a lot in my life, and I still go to shows. And the bands that I love the most and the bands that I choose to listen to are bands that I've seen live. And when I listen to it, it brings back that memory of seeing them live. So if I go to a show and I don't really like the show, I'm less likely to listen to that on Spotify later. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But when I listen to my favorite bands that I listen to, it's almost always bands that I've seen live, and it brings back, you in your mind, you're listening to it, but in your soul and your mind, you're feeling it, you're remembering it, and you want to see that band again. And so that's why when a musician dies, when Tom Petty passed, you're just like, I'll never see Tom Petty again. You know what I mean? And it's like, for people that seen Tom Petty live, you're just like, every time I listen to Tom Petty, I think about every show that I ever saw Tom Petty at. Yeah. And it's like, when you can connect with a live artist, it'll stick with you forever. And I've seen big bands in tiny little rooms, and I've seen huge festivals, and I've seen you play at a tattoo party with 50 people, and you fucking rocked it like it was a fucking stadium. You know what I mean? You put on the same show that you would put on if you played at a festival. And I love that. Fucking great. And you would think, from an outsider point of view, you would think if you're on a stage and there's 10,000, 20,000, whatever people, that you're going to do something different than if you're in a small club or a small bar or you know what I mean? But it's like the feeling that you get from live music, for people that are music fans, I think it really resonates, and it's why people buy vinyl. It's why people, buy the t-shirt. It's why people buy the t-shirt because I was at that fucking show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's fucking cool, and it's kind of like the thing where it's like, it's kind of funny when you go to a show and people are wearing the shirt already.
Yeah.
Or people go to a Social Distortion show and they're wearing a Social Distortion shirt, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's what it's like they're into it,
Right.
And it's like, they want you to know that I'm here and I've been here before, this, kind of shit. But, and it's also on that same note, people always wonder, like, man, I can't believe that, like, Merle Haggard, like, was still playing shows 2 weeks before he passed away or whatever, And you're like, what else is he going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's just going to go sit at home? No, he's going to play a show. He's a fucking musician.
Right.
Because we saw Merle Haggard in Long Beach, and he was old and he sounded incredible.
Oh, good. Yeah. Wow.
And but
was that the outdoor thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I played that show.
You did.
Yeah.
That was at the Queen Mary.
Right. The Ink and Iron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great show.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to say hi to him real quick, but didn't really get to meet him, so that would have been kind of cool. But, it's Merle Haggard.
But man, you've kind of made it to a point where you've met a lot of pretty incredible people and got to play alongside of a lot of pretty.
Yeah, but I don't like to drop names.
Yeah.
Never drop names. De Niro told me that. So, I'm not, I could have met a lot more people, except I'm not
You're not the pushy to the front guy.
I'm not pushy like that. You got to be kind of really pushy to be able to get around all the people and everybody else, like push them out of the way. Get out of the way. I want to meet Tiger Woods. Get out of the way. It's like, get out of here, kid. Get out of here, old guy. Whatever. But yeah, I've got to meet some pretty famous people, and
but you're pretty gracious when people want to meet you.
I try to be,
Yeah, you're pretty.
I try to be. I think I used to be a jerk, but I'm trying to be less of a jerk now.
Oh, that's great. I mean,
well, you are too, and I was always impressed. And you know what? When I saw, I was hanging around you a couple of times in these crowds. And I'm probably going to force you to do this even more now that people know it. But everybody that came up said, Oliver, can I have a picture? Can I have a picture? And you're like, oh yeah, sure. Ding, ding, picture and everything else. And then you were kind of doing it, like having to do it like the whole time you were anywhere around this place. And I was thinking, you know what, Jim, talking to myself, that's what you need to do. You need to be doing that just like Oliver, because if he can do it, I can do it too. And so, like in those situations, I was there too. I wouldn't have to do it because it was your situation. But in my situation at one of my shows, man, I try to be as accommodating as I can, because those people are, they're fans, and I'm lucky. Reverend Horton Heat fans are normally people that are really nice with good senses of humor. So
yeah,
it's pretty
well,
cool.
I'm a friendly guy and always have been, and it's the more friendly you are, the more friendly the situation is, and you're happy to meet people, and they're happy to meet you, and then it's a pleasant situation, or you could easily turn that into like a negative situation, you know what I mean, and be negative and not want to be friendly, So it's just, to me, it's just seems like that's just my natural.
That's great that you did that. I mean,
state,
it's great that I noticed it, and that I thought to myself that I need to make sure and do that more, and not try to, every now and then though it gets a little zany. I don't know if you have this, but But like 99.5% of my fans are just wonderful people.
Yeah.
But it's that 0.5 that can screw everything up.
The end of the night, that guy's like 12 drinks deep and won't leave you alone.
Yeah, and so a lot of nights I end up being that I have to deal with that person because they're so pushy and they're so we call them,
and they know somebody that let them backstage.
The number one punisher, right? Some of those people get backstage, and some people follow us to our hotel rooms, and I still try to be gracious to those people. But man, sometimes, man, it's just I gotta be a little. I mean, I've been bit. I've had people stick their fingers up my nose twice. I've had people stick their fingers in my mouth more than once.
I mean, the mouth. Why the nose? What are they trying to do?
Well, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to glorify these people too much.
I got you.
But then
seems funny.
But of course I've been
seems humorous in retrospect.
I've been grabbed in my private parts a million times. I've had people step on my feet,
and that's not counting Jimbo.
Yeah, I'm not counting Jimbo. Jimbo's a great he's a great guy.
I love him.
He's a lot like me in that respect because he's not pushy.
Oh, he's the friendliest guy.
Yeah, and he's friendly. He's really probably more friendly than I am. But anyway, I don't know. But so dealing with those people is like, oh my gosh, man, that's.
I mean, you're playing a rock show where people like to get wasted.
Yeah.
People are at Reverend Horton Heat shows are having fun.
Yeah.
People are having a lot of drinks. And by the end of the night, people are rowdy. I mean, I've been in mosh pits at Reverend Horton Heat shows.
Yeah.
And rowdy crowds. I mean, I've been at some where it's more mellow, but I mean, I've been at some rowdy shows, Speaking of rowdy shows, I wanted to ask you about, I know you've played a couple of years at Sturgis.
Yeah.
How wild is it playing at the Buffalo Chip? Is it any different than any other show, or is it like, I mean, that crowd is like, they are all in for whoever's on stage.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
they're there no matter what, and they're at Sturgis, and they're there to party, and it's like, there's always a great lineup.
Yeah.
Always a great lineup of bands or whatever, but,
well, we played the year of COVID and opened up for Zakk Wylde. And
Loved it.
That was the only one where it wasn't just really packed out because of COVID, so.
But I got to say, I love that y'all played that because I know other people turned it down.
Yeah. Well, we.
And y'all kept the rock. The show must go on.
Yeah, I mean, by that point, I think Reverend Horton Heat, we were some of the first people in America to catch COVID, because the right before it broke, we all went to the NAMM Festival, which is going on right now in LA.
Yeah.
So it was really about the exact same time of year 4 years ago.
Right when it hit. Yeah.
But so we were all getting, well, not me, because I take zinc. I take a lot of zinc.
I take zinc every day.
And I was the oldest guy on the bus, and I didn't get sick. Everybody else is like, oh, I gotta go to the doctor again today, and I can't breathe. And I'm like, oh, and I've got a fever. And so we were like kind of joking around about it, because we're like going, gosh, you can't even get the flu anymore without worrying about it's going to be some crazy disease. Of course, at that point, we didn't know how that COVID was really going to hit America, was really a thing, And so we were in Seattle when that, like, the first news story about the people in the nursing home started getting this disease. Anyway, so long story short, I thought that we had already we already had immunity to it. So, and we did. I mean, when nobody really got COVID after that, So, but we went ahead and played Sturgis. So, but no, the Sturgis shows are. One thing about them is that they can be really big.
Yeah.
So we opened up for Kid Rock 2 years ago, and there were 90,000 people.
Yeah.
And I was
And
thinking,
everybody's just revving their motorcycles between every song.
yeah,
Just,
yeah.
wow,
Some guys, some people don't like that. You know, we knew what to expect. That we knew that it was a sign of respect.
I mean, if you're at Sturgis, that's what you're going to get.
Right. So right. And so we opened up for Eric Church, who's a big country guy, and that show had probably around 30,000. So it was a big show. But when the people started revving the motorcycles after his songs, you could tell he was like getting a little pissed off about it. You know,
No, those people are partying. They love it.
Right. That's a sign. It's a sign of respect.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes
it's like cheering.
It's for them. It's their way. Yeah. And so, you know, you know, we understood that, but I don't think he did at that. So he didn't take it that well, but, no, everybody's super nice on those shows. We've always, man, it's been a pretty wild party. I mean, Buffalo Chip is its own city, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
I love it.
And the guys there told us, they said, you know, you need to behave when you guys party and have fun. Like, it might have been the owner or somebody, or one of the top guys there. He said, but this is like its own city. He said, if you get in trouble in here, he goes, the cops aren't probably going to come in here unless you get killed.
Yeah.
Unless you're actually dead. Then the cops will come in and scoop you up.
But for the most part, everyone there is there to have fun.
Right. And so that's why and all of them know that without, you know, you're messing with the whole group of people that aren't going to appreciate you being, you know, trying to be a tough person for starting fights and everything. So, and I'm sure they still have that, but they've got quite the clientele, let's say, the other patrons will take care of you. But no, it was fun, man. We went to some cool parties. I saw, that band from Dallas, Mothership.
Yeah.
I saw them there. Man, it was good. They
were living a dream.
Oh man, their set, I think they started like at 2 a.m. And so we were there till like 4 or 5 a.m. watching them. It was great.
I mean, Sturgis it's huge, and there's like thousands and thousands of people with their motorcycles and their tents and everything, and everybody just leaves stuff out. Nothing, they don't have to worry about stuff there,
right?
Because, you know, if you were to fuck with somebody else's shit, the people's shit you're fucking with will fuck you up.
That's right.
You know, and B, the people that are there aren't fucking with other people's shit.
Right.
It's a big group of like-minded people that are there for fun.
That's right.
They went all the way across the country to be there to have the week of their life.
That's right.
And it's like everyone there is high-fiving everybody they see and giving everybody beers, you know, like, and it's just you know, it's like biker hippies, man. It's just a big party.
A lot of fun.
And like the bands that play there, man, everybody there is all in. You know, we saw, you know, I've seen a bunch of bands there over the years. Saw Skinner play, and like between every song, hundreds of motorcycles just wah, 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 wah. And Skinner is like, yeah, love it. You know, they ramp it up. And then when it's time for the next song, everybody stops.
All right.
You know, if I feel like if they don't like you, they're going to do it in the middle of your song. You know? But they do it between songs, and it does take a few minutes between each songs because everybody is so like, wow, you know. Yeah. But people are having a time of their life.
That's right. Yeah, no, we love it.
I haven't had any negative. I mean, you hear a bunch of talk about Sturgis, and I didn't go there for many years just because of like, I don't want to go where there's millions of people packed in this little place. But then once I went, I was like, oh my God, this place is amazing.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. Last year was our first year not playing Sturgis in almost 10 years. We played every year so, you know, I'm flattered and grateful that that community likes us, and we've been able to play all those years. And so we're talking about, we might go back this year. I don't know. You know, it's always hard to predict what's going on, especially with, you know, my management and whatever. But yeah, those are some fun times, man. I've had a lot of fun there. We went to one bar one night. One of the funniest thing I ever saw is that our light guy, his sister and her husband came to the gig, and after we played, we went out to some bar that had this boxing ring. And they said, okay, we're going to have ladies boxing matches, and so whoever wants to sign up for it. And my friends, the girl that was with her husband there, she's like going, I'm going to do it. And so we're like going, all right. And so, man, it was a blast. It was like a scene out of a movie because they, she got in there. She was like all scrappy and she won the first fight. And we're over there. Yeah. I mean, it was so much fun, man. But yeah, stuff like that is pretty cool. So.
Well, that's great, man. So what's the next thing you're putting out with the Fun Guy Records?
Well, the next thing is it's called Stars Align, and it's a 2-song CD that we just did in Memphis last month with me and Dale Watson and Jason D. Williams all singing.
Oh, and this is what's going the tour.
And then that's gonna be kind of to help promote this new tour. And getting back to the record business, that's another thing that's kind of cool the way things are now is that you don't have to do a whole album to promote something. Everything is very much video driven now. Video, but you can just put out one song and go to radio even. Whereas, before it was like you need to have an album and a proper release. And now it's like the way these services are now and those platforms like Spotify and Apple, I'm going to be able to put these artists out in front of people and have the money to promote them. So
very cool.
That's what I'm working on, promoting,
Well, I'm excited for that tour. That tour sounds like it's going to be super cool. I love Dale Watson, and I love what you said about him, how he's like one of the last like old country rock guys.
Yeah.
He is, he's played some shows for us at our festival, and he's awesome.
He's awesome. Yeah, he's an amazing singer, an amazing guitar player, songwriter, and so yeah, I've known him for 35, 40 years almost, I guess. When I first met him, I went down to Houston, and my girlfriend was with me. We went down there to play a gig, and we didn't know where we were going to stay. She goes, "We can stay with my friend," and okay, good, And she goes, "Yeah, she dates a musician too, and so his name is Dale Watson." I said, "Oh, okay, Dale Watson, all right, whatever." So with one of my earliest gigs in Houston,
very cool.
We stayed with Dale Watson at his house, and then I eventually on those shows we'd always like go like a couple of times I got to go see him at his house band gig out in Pasadena.
Oh yeah,
that was when he was real young, and I saw him. I go, "Man, this guy can sing like Merle Haggard, but he kind of looks like Merle Haggard."
Yeah.
But he can sing like George Jones, but then he writes his own songs that are great. And
I mean, you and him are a good fit together too, going tour together.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun together. Oh yeah. It's good.
I just followed, Matt the Cat just did that tour with them, and that looks super fun. And Matt was doing all these daily videos, which you could tell that Dale was kind of like, okay, whatever, just kind of in it with Matt's deal, but it was really entertaining to watch. And I mean, you could tell Matt was having a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've known him I've known him since he was about 12 years old.
I know. Man, I met Matt when he was really young, and I went to a Reverend Horton Heat show at the Hop.
Oh, really?
In Fort Worth.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
And
that's where I met Andrea, my wife.
And I was
at the Hop.
I grew up in Fort Worth.
Oh, you did?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. Did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Southwest High School. My mom went to Pascal right downstairs from the Hop. My mom and my dad met at the Hop, when they were teenagers.
Wow. That's cool.
So I was at this Reverend Horton Heat show at the Hop, and I'm there, and I'm in the front row, and we're just rocking out, and there's this really young kid standing next to me when we're rocking out the whole time. And then about halfway through the set, you called him up on stage and he played a song with you. And he was probably 16 at that time.
Yeah.
He was
something.
And then, been friends with him ever since.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. He's a great artist. Matt Hillier.
Yeah.
That's who we're talking about.
New album coming out. I just did an artwork for his new album.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Really excited.
No, it's that. Yeah, he's great. And he's gotten into this thing where he's writing a lot of songs. I mean, I've got a lot of songs, but not like him, man. He's really focused on writing a lot of songs, and so I'm really proud of what he's done. And 1100 Springs is a great band.
Great band.
Yeah, so that's done now, but for now. But Matt Hillier, if you get a chance to see him or listen to his music, it's great.
He's gonna get. I think he's on the way up.
Yep,
because he's really focused on. And I talked to Matt a lot, and one thing we talk about it. We talk about music a lot, and he learns so many songs, like old songs, new songs. Like he learns how to play other songs so much that he's like this music jukebox.
Yeah.
You can just name a song and he can play it. And
Right.
he does these shows. Like he's played shows for us where it's just like an all request hour. People just yell out a song and he plays it, and then he'll play his own songs too. But part of him like writing so many songs is that he's learned so many songs. He just has this like churning musical bank just churning in his mind that he can just like draw from, and just inspiration. And he also has an amazing natural instinct for being able to play guitar. And, like there's people that can practice and learn, and there's people that just have an affinity for things, and Matt is one of those natural, he's a natural talent.
Yeah.
But he also has that hard work.
Right.
So he's just churning. And so his mind is just always thinking. And part of him writing so much is he spends so much time learning so many other songs and learning, different eras of music. And, he's just immersed.
Mm-hmm.
And he just always churning. So
Right.
he's incredible. And people that have never heard him, the first time they hear him, they're blown away.
Yeah.
Like I have a Christmas party, that we put on for Elm Street Tattoo, and it's a charity deal every year. It's our anniversary. We do a Christmas party, and this year was this year was the 27th annual Christmas party.
Oh,
the
wow.
first year we had it, we didn't have live music. Every other year, Matt Hillier has played it.
Wow.
He played it with the Colliers. He played it with the trio.
Wow.
He played it with 1100. He's played it solo. He's played it in one way or another. He's played it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's just the amazing guy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I really appreciate you coming and talking to me and, giving me some insight on what you got going on lately. We didn't really talk a whole lot about the past history of, Dallas, Reverend Horton Heat, but, everybody in every scene has the stories of the bands that they grew up with, and like being in Dallas in the late 80s and 90s, Reverend Horton Heat played a lot, so people in my generation like grew up with it. So it's super cool. Just to, this is my local rockabilly legend, to have in here. So it's really fucking cool. But I wanted to touch base on one thing, because I also was able to see and meet and befriend another great Dallas rockabilly legend, the Blonde Bomber, Ronnie Dawson.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just at least ask, what was your first experience and with being around, seeing him or anything like that?
Well, I knew the songs off the compilation albums that and I'd heard of him, but I really didn't even know it was a Dallas guy.
Waxahachie, actually, but
Waxahachie, yeah, I see, yeah, but anyway, and it's interesting you brought this up, because the first time I met Matt was at a bar called the Chase Lounge. His parents brought him to the Reverend Horton Heat show at the Chase Lounge, and so anyway, a famous local Dallas promoter, Angus Wynn, came to the Chase Lounge and brought Ronnie Dawson. And so I got to meet Ronnie Dawson at one of those gigs there, and I that's when I started, learning more and getting more into the history of Ronnie Dawson and Commonwealth Jones. And Ronnie D. He was also known. Had basically three names, but he was super talented. He was in the 50s. He was like unbelievably talented kid. He was just a young teenager that could play greatly, of course, sing great, play lead guitar, and write these killer songs, and had a really energetic show. He was really skinny, young kid out there jumping all around. They called him the Blonde Bomber, and he played the Louisiana Hayride. I mean, the Big D Jamboree a bunch, and he was and his songs were great. They were only regional hits.
Yeah.
So when music started to change and rock and roll kind of started going off into other directions and not even really being rock and roll anymore, he kind of just went country. And he was a great local country singer, band leader in the North Texas region for a long time. And so it wasn't until, like I was talking about a while ago, the great rockabilly scare of 1983, 83, is a lot of the young rockabilly people especially in Europe, figured out that Ronnie Dawson, Ronnie D, had some of the best songs of the era. So they were putting out these compilation albums, these European labels that would have a Ronnie Dawson song as the first song of these records that were coming out, because they were so consequently, he had a whole second career in rock and roll because of the rockabilly resurgence. He was back playing rock and roll and
back playing it
all over Europe,
Las Vegas shows,
all over Europe. He was on Conan O'Brien. He was in Australia and I think Japan too, and just had a great second
They loved him in Japan.
At that. Yeah. So yeah, he was a cool guy. I got to hang out with him. He recorded one of my songs in an album that came out in like 1986. It was an album called Monkey Beat, and it's a song I wrote called Rockin' Dog.
Yeah.
So it's not credited on that album, but that's a whole other story. But no, but anyway, no, he was a great guy, and he would. It's just a shame we lost him because he was still really vital. He got cancer. I mean, he was a very healthy guy. Would run 10 miles a day.
Oh, he used to back in the, a long time ago. Milburn was working on his car sometimes, and he lived right over by Campese's, and he would run to Milburn's to pick up his car.
Yeah.
He would we'd be sitting out front and look around the corner, and Ronnie'd come jogging up, and he's like, I came to pick up my car. And he just ran.
Yeah. How far is that?
It's 10 miles.
At least, right. Something like that.
But he ran real slow. He just jogged, just and he looked like he was wearing short shorts, knee-high socks, headband, tank top, and he's super skinny, and he just looked like something out of Three's Company, just come jogging up the street. And I'm like, that guy's a rockabilly legend, and he's just jogging around Dallas. And I was like, I couldn't run that far.
Yeah, man, he was something, and great songs, but he was a great all around musician. A lot of people know there's a really big hit song called "Hey Baby," like "Hey Baby, I wanna know, would you be my girl?"
Yeah,
that song. He played drums on that. And it's kind of like there's this one drum lick
that's
in that.
like a
there's
that's
one
like a top 100 of all time song,
right?
Yeah.
And there's what is it? A Bruce Chanel. Anyway, there's a little drum fill thing in there that's really like a hook for the whole song. It's like one of the biggest. And when you kind of think back on it, he's one of the best drum hooks of the whole 50s. All that. Or 50s, 60s, that might have been early 60s, I'm not sure. But yeah, no, he was super talented. But Yeah, Dallas rockabilly. Dallas was a hotbed for music, and a lot of people don't realize. And I love Austin, but Austin's reputation as being a music capital is somewhat store bought.
Yeah.
Is what I call it, because the city council at some point decided to spend millions of dollars to promote Austin to Austin Tourism
To
Bureau.
compete with Nashville.
Well, to compete with Nashville, but just to bring people there, just
Yeah.
to tour for tourism, where
Yeah.
the live music, and there was a lot of that, and there were a lot of people that loved live music. But like in the 70s, we wanted to be in Dallas because Dallas had like 8 rock clubs in Austin.
In the 80s.
And there was one in Austin
Yeah.
that was really legitimate. There were a lot of little dive bars that would have rock bands a little bit, but in Dallas, man, there was a lot. And when you think about it, Stevie Ray, Jimmy Vaughn was from Dallas, Stevie Ray's from Dallas, and Doyle Bramhall's from Fort Worth.
Billy Gibbons lived in Dallas.
Well, he's a Houston guy.
But he lived here in Deep Ellum for a long time.
Right, that's right. That's a whole other cool thing that he did. ZZ Top's cool, man. They're cool. They, of course, being from South Texas, I grew up down in Corpus Christi, and so having a band from Houston get that big, to us, they were the kings of the world.
I mean, still are.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in the 80s, I was in high school, and we came to Dallas every single weekend to see a show. Rock and roll, punk rock, whatever kind of show. Theater gallery, video bar,
Twilight
Room. I mean, there was tons of places to see shows, that were, what was the place over the heavy metal club over on Lower Greenville? I can't remember the name of it. The Basement, maybe?
Oh, the Basement, yeah.
Basement. Yeah, there was, and it wasn't even a basement.
Right. It was just a building, yeah.
But it kind of had a basement feel once you're inside it, I guess. But yeah, so many great clubs and shows, and I mean, so many different venues, and I think literally and then rockabilly kicked off, and rock and roll kind of made a big resurgence, and the punk rock scene was huge. All that kind of, Dallas was a hot spot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing about Deep Ellum, going back to the 20s, 30s, 40s. The rise of jazz, blues, black music was big part of that history was Deep Ellum, because they all played Deep Ellum. I mean, all the great bands like Duke Ellington, and they all, and then all the blues guys and Count Basie and all that stuff. They were all playing Deep Ellum, so it's going.
Lightning Hopkins.
Of course, all the Lightning Hopkins, Robert Johnsons. They were all there. So Dallas has a rich that I would like to see get a little, because everywhere I go, it's like, so what's Austin like? It's like, well, it's a lot of fun, and Austin. I'm glad that the city of Austin did embrace live music, so that's a good thing. But let's give Dallas and maybe even Houston a little bit of credit, because a lot of what happened in Austin was because of other people throughout the state of Texas, Fort Worth too,
and Denton,
Denton and Beaumont and San Antonio and all that. So But yeah, Dallas, there's a lot of things about Dallas that people don't realize, that its connection to the music business, and there's a lot of great stories. And the Big D Jamboree in the 50s, of course, had Elvis and all the great rock and rollers played there. And then
Longhorn Ballroom and all that.
Sure, the Longhorn. And then over in Fort Worth, you had Panther Hall, and so, but there's a lot of great history in Dallas. So. Of all the genres, jazz, blues, country, rock and roll.
Well, bingo. Well, Jim, thank you so much, man. If you got anything to tell me before we call it quits?
No, just thank you for supporting Reverend Horton Heat, Oliver. I really do appreciate it. And Fun Guy Records, and look out for Reverend Horton Heat on tour in 2024. I'm going to have some great bands.
I'd love to hear
Even
more.
if you don't really like Reverend Horton Heat,
Even if
you
don't.
might want to buy a ticket and come to the show, because these bands that I'm playing with are stellar.
Very cool.
Great.
What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Label Solutions, www.labelsolutionsinc.com. I've been a customer of theirs for over a decade. They make the highest quality premium labels for all kinds of products. Food and beverage, personal care products, pet care products, beer and wine spirits, CBD products, automotive products, and more. They can make a label for almost anything. Multicolor, custom die cut, full wraparound labels, too many options to even tell you about. I use Label Solutions for all the stickers and labels for my stuff, like the Tiki Loco label on the coffee I'm drinking right now. They do have a minimum order of 1,000 labels, so they won't make you 20 labels for that soap you're making in your bathtub. But if you've got products to label, you need Label Solutions. Get started today at www.labelsolutionsinc.com.